Good evening, I'm Robbie Alampay. The big stories tonight. The anti-terrorism bill is now the anti-terrorism law. The palace confirms that President Rodrigo Duterte has signed the measure. The president has landed in Zamboanga to iron out things with uniformed men after the killing of 4 soldiers in Jolo. COVID-19 infections in the Philippines have reached 40,000 with more than 1,500 cases reported today. That is the single highest increase in a day in the country. They are kings of the road once again. Jeepneys are back in business, but not all drivers are too keen to ply the streets just yet. The Coast Guard is abandoning its rescue efforts for Liberty 5's missing 14. They are now shifting to retrieval operations. And cheer up, Hoop fans, your favorite teams can resume practice any day now as authorities allow supervised training for basketball. Let's begin with President Rodrigo Duterte signing the anti-terror law. Presidential spokesman Harry Roque confirmed that the law has been passed amid strong opposition from progressive groups, lawmakers, and even leaders of the Bangsamoro region. Prior to the law signing, the Bangsamoro Transition Authority had just approved a resolution urging the president to veto the bill for fear that it will normalize abuse and discrimination against the Bangsamoro people. But Malacanang says these claims are unfounded and that Bangsamoro leaders may have just prejudged the measure. Roque said the legislation is against terrorists and terrorism, not against any particular region or ethnic group. But the Human Rights Watch is far from convinced. In a statement, Deputy Asia Director Phil Robertson said the Duterte administration has pushed Philippine democracy into an abyss by signing the Anti-Terrorism Act. He then urged the international community to denounce the measure, which he says amounts to a stealth declaration of martial law. Senate President Tito Soto is downplaying concerns regarding the law, saying it has safeguards against abuse despite being harsh against terrorists. One of the measure's proponents, Senator Ping Lacson, congratulated President Duterte for his strong political will to pass the measure despite opposition. With the president's signature affixed onto the act, the anti-terror law will take effect 15 days after its full publication. By then, law enforcers will be empowered to detain suspected terrorists for up to 24 days. The government may also conduct surveillance of a suspected terrorist for up to 60 days. Aside from grief for their fallen comrades, the Army also expressed disappointment because not only did they lose 4 respected soldiers, they also lost track of 2 suspected bombers in Sulu. Pat Mangune has the details.
Following the death of 4 soldiers in the hands of policemen in Jolo, the Army is disappointed that they missed the chance to immediately apprehend 2 suspected bombers that the victims were tailing. The terrorists are allegedly connected to a series of suicide bombings in Sulu last year.
Imagine the lost opportunity there. 2 bombers supposed to be captured and neutralized. Nakawala sila. And, the potential of these 2 bombers of sowing terror.
While they remain at large, Malacanang also fears that they might stage another bombing.
Siyempre po, dahil ibig sabihin, yung pinaplano ng mga teroristang yan na mambomba, po pwede mangyari kahit anong oras dahil hindi nga po sila napigilan ng mga napatay na kasundaluhan.
But for the armed forces, the mission continues. AFP Chief of Staff General Felimon Santos Jr. says intelligence units in Sulu will not stop tracking the suspects. Security in the area also remains tight to prevent any terrorist attacks. The Army, meanwhile, is puzzled why the police apparently abandoned the scene right after the shootout. It can be seen in the CCTV footage that the soldiers who responded to the incident were freely moving around the crime scene, which was not taped off with a police line.
Pag may napatay, you have to cordon the area and wait for SOCO. Wala, nagtakbuhan lahat eh. So, ano ibig sabihin nun? So, this is one thing, another thing we want to find out in the investigation.
The Philippine National Police says they refuse to meddle with the NBI's probe. According to spokesperson Police Brigadier General Bernard Banac, all officers found to have abused their authority will be punished under the law.
Hindi po kukonsintihin ng PNP kung sakali mang may naging pagkakamali, may ebidensya na papatunay na nagbalabis sa kapangyarihan ng ating mga pulis, at kung may naging paglabag sa batas, ay mananagot po sila sa ilalim ng ating batas at maihain natin ang hustisya.
The PNP hopes that the NBI will find all the necessary evidence for the case. For News 5, Patricia Mangune. We are One News.
President Duterte is now in Zamboanga City 4 days after the shooting incident that killed 4 army soldiers in Jolo, Sulu. The president is set to meet the 9 police officers involved in the incident. News 5's Maricel Halili is monitoring the developments of this story. We speak with her via phone. Maricel, what's the latest?
Yes, Robbie, President Duterte arrived in Zamboanga City more than 2 hours past his expected time of arrival. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque said that the president is scheduled to meet with the 9 police officers involved in the shooting with army personnel on Monday that resulted in the death of 4 military men. The said policemen were transported from Jolo Sulu to Zamboanga City. Secretary Roque said the president wants to uplift the morale of the PNP and the army, who are both caught in the middle of the issue. The president also wants to make sure that there won't be any tension between the military and the police after the said shooting incident in Jolo. Malacanang also gave its assurance that justice will be served. The Interior Department has announced earlier that the chief of police in Jolo, as well as the 9 police officers involved in the incident, were relieved. The National Bureau of Investigation is the lead agency that has been investigating the incident. Secretary Roque denied reports that the military did not allow the president to visit Jolo Sulu this afternoon. He said that the president's schedule is in Zamboanga, and Jolo Sulu has never been part of the president's itinerary for today. Robbie, this is the first out-of-town visit of President Duterte that is open for media coverage. Unfortunately, it is not possible for some of the members of the media to personally witness the event due to late advisory, number 1. Number 2, because of limited commercial flights and because of required medical clearances. So for now, we are on standby for the speech of the President from Mindanao to be aired anytime. Robbie?
Maraming salamat, Maricel Halili. The U.S. Defense Department is raising concerns about Beijing's military exercises in the South China Sea. In a statement, the Pentagon says the drills are counterproductive to efforts of easing tensions in the disputed region. The agency is describing these as the latest in China's long string of unlawful maritime claims over its Southeast Asian neighbors. The Philippines Foreign Affairs Department is warning that China's activities beyond its own waters could cause more tension in the region.
Should the exercises spill over to Philippine territory, then China is forewarned that it will be met with the severest response, diplomatic and whatever else is appropriate.
As for conducting joint patrols with other ASEAN countries, the Defense Department says that's yet to be tackled. Secretary Delfin Lorenzana did reveal, however, that India has volunteered to patrol the contested waters.
They volunteered to go there. And so, sabi naman namin, we told them that the South China Sea is open for navigation to everybody. So, if they want to come, it's okay with us. But at the same time, maybe if they come, they will be, again, increasing the tension in the area.
We'll pause for a short break, but when the big story returns, Filipinos without any COVID-19 symptoms may get the chance to get tested as the government seeks to utilize the 10 million PCR test kits it has procured. And jeepney drivers are back, but a number of them have skipped the first day on the road. The details when we return. I'm Robbie Alampay. You're watching The Big Story. Just a few days shy of the University of the Philippines forecast, COVID-19 cases in the country have now breached the 40,000 mark. That's after the country recorded its highest single-day rise in infections at over 1,500 just over the past 24 hours. A majority of those were reported late cases, which the DOH says were released to patients late last month. 6 new COVID-19 deaths were also reported. That brings the death total to 1,280. The DOH also reports the highest number of recoveries in a day with 400 new survivors. This brings the total recoveries to more than 11,070. The Interagency Task Force on Emerging Infectious Diseases has approved a plan to expand national testing for COVID-19. The strategy is meant to fully utilize the 10 million RT-PCR test kits procured by the Budget and Health Departments. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque says the plan includes the testing of asymptomatic individuals. Latest data from the DOH shows that less than 1% of the population, around 680,000 Filipinos, have been tested so far.
Kasama na po sa itetest ay hindi lang mga symptomatic at hindi lang yung mga nagkaroon ng contact sa mga mayroong COVID-19. Kasama na rin po ang mga asymptomatic at posibleng makapasama na rin po yung iba pang mga frontliners gaya po ng media. No? Itetest din po natin yung iba pang mga ahensya ng gobyerno na nagsisilbing mga frontliners.
The IATF will be allowing more activities and industries under general community quarantine. Religious gatherings of up to 10% of the venue's capacity will also be allowed starting July 10. The IATF has also permitted travel agencies to resume operations with skeleton workforce. It has also approved barber shops and salons to offer services aside from basic haircuts. Traditional jeepneys are back in 49 routes across Metro Manila, but because of the limited number of passengers, a lot of drivers have skipped the first day of their return to the streets. Gerard de la Peña with the story.
Jeepneys on Lardizabal Street in Sampaloc, Manila waited for half an hour before they could start moving. Passengers were hard to come by, even during what was supposed to be the morning rush hour. Drivers said of the more than 200 jeepney operators plying the Lardizabal-Tayuman route, only 10 mounted trips in anticipation of lower passenger volume.
Kukunti pa yung pasahero, marami pa kasing hindi nakakaalam eh.
While for commuters, getting on jeepneys can only provide a bit of relief.
Hindi naman siya masasabing advantage kasi we're here already 1 hour, so waiting pa rin siya.
Makakaluwang ka sa pagod na lakad dahil sobrang init, pero ingat lang.
Barkers who used to summon passengers are now adapting to the new normal. They are now in charge of scanning passengers' temperatures, getting details for contact tracing, and accepting payments from passengers. Jeepneys have plastic dividers to prevent the spread of the virus inside the vehicle. However, the Transportation Department has recommendations for the plastic dividers.
Ang pinaalis natin is yung acetate doon sa harap, yung pagitan ng magkaharap na pasahero. Meron silang nilalagay na acetate. Sabi ko nga, dapat alisin yun dahil pagbaba at pagsakay ng pasahero, nasasagi siyempre ng pasahero yun. Paano kung may COVID yun, ano? So, papupunta sa katawan niya o kaya sa mukha niya.
To make sure that only allowed jeeps will ply the roads, QR codes will be made available to operators for monitoring and enforcement. It will be available in the LTFRB's website, which is expected to be up and running on Friday. The DOTR said they will apprehend those who do not have QR codes starting Monday. For News 5, Gerard de la Peña. We are One News.
And these are the other big stories today. House lawmakers are again tackling the load protection bill, which seeks to remove the expiration period for all prepaid load credits. Telco providers Smart and Globe are opposing the proposal, saying it is not feasible due to carrying costs. The government is eyeing to gradually open 3 tourist destinations in Palawan to boost tourism amid the pandemic. These include El Nido, Coron, and San Vicente. But Tourism Secretary Berna Romulo Puyat says tourists should first undergo PCR testing before traveling to the island. San Miguel Foundation has opened its COVID-19 testing laboratory in Mandaluyong City. The facility can process 4,000 RT-PCR tests each day. That's expandable to 12,000. The laboratory can also conduct COVID-19 tests for Metro Manila residents for free. And Navotas City is gearing up for the new normal in education, all with the help of a box. Question is, what's inside? Laila Pangilinan tells us in this report.
With classes set to start on August 24, the Education Department has asked public schools to conduct pilot runs to assess the best mode of education for their students. In Navotas, a group of grade 6, grade 8, and kindergarten students were selected to take part in the pilot test, which ends Friday. Blended learning was the city's top choice for learning continuity, giving birth to the 11 million peso Navo School in a Box project. The box contains modules, books, and other materials needed by public school students from kinder to senior high school. For kindergarten students, the box contains crayons, pencils, toys, and other art materials. It also has worksheets for parents who will guide their kids in learning from home. Teacher Fatty, a kindergarten teacher and one of the brains behind Navo School in a Box, says teachers will still play a crucial role, but parents need to extend their full cooperation.
We need to still facilitate the learning process. We will be with the parents po through communication sa messenger.
All subjects and activities will be scheduled, and just like in school, the day starts with a prayer and a bit of exercise. Teacher Fatty sends video instructions via a messenger chat group. Storytelling time by Teacher Fatty is also delivered via messenger. And to assess if the kids are enjoying while learning, parents have to send real-time videos or pictures of their kids while studying at home.
Yung pagsisend din po nila ng pictures and videos, nagsisilbi din pong motivation for other classmates. So kahit po hindi sila nagkakita pa ng personal, hindi ko pa rin po sila nakita ng personal, nagkakaroon po tayo ng rapport.
Lexi is one of the students selected to participate in the pilot run. Her mom Raquel says she's still adjusting to her new role as an instructor.
Nakakaubos po talaga ng energy. Kasi po, katulad ko po, housewife po ako. Ako po yung gumagawa ng trabaho dito sa bahay.
But for Teacher Fatty, this is the pandemic's silver lining.
The program really is a home-based learning. Bumabalik po tayo doon ulit sa partnership ng bahay at ng paaralan na hindi na lamang po para sa aming mga guro yung responsibilidad ng pagpapataguyod po ng pag-aaral ng mga bata.
For the LGU and DepEd Navotas, the Navo School in a Box is proof that the full commitment of parents will go a long way in keeping up with the school in the time of COVID. For News 5, Laila Pangilinan, we are One News.
Coming up on the big story, the Coast Guard is working on a case against Hong Kong flag Vienna Wood after it failed to actively try to rescue the passengers of Liberty 5. And while basketball teams can now resume practices, fans are reminded it is still not safe to play ball outside. These stories when we come back. This is the big story. I'm Robbie Alampay. The Philippine Coast Guard is now building a criminal case against the crew of the Hong Kong flag cargo ship Vienna Wood. hit and run was already ruled out since Vienna Wood did stay put in the vicinity at the time of the accident. But the Philippine Coast Guard's probe reveals that they did not attempt to lower rescue boats after colliding with Filipino fishing vessel Liberty 5. Maritime law requires Vienna Wood to actively try to save the passengers of the vessel they collided with. And with not one survivor turning up after 5 days of search and rescue operations, authorities are shifting to search and retrieval operations in the hopes of recovering at least the bodies of the 14 missing Filipinos. They will do this for 4 more days before terminating the search altogether. More than 30 barangays in Manila will be placed under hard lockdown starting Saturday due to rising COVID-19 cases. Meanwhile, Quiapo Church has reopened after closing its doors for 14 days. Camille Samonte with this story.
Some residents in 31 barangays in Manila have flocked groceries and wet markets to stock up on food and other essentials. 31 villages in districts 1, 2, 3, and 5 and 6 will be placed under a 2-day total lockdown starting tomorrow at 12 a.m. until Sunday midnight. These have recorded more than 3 active cases of COVID-19, totaling to 147 infections. The lockdown will give way to the City Health Office's disease surveillance, risk assessment, and testing.
Una namin irarapid test ay yung mga relatives ng mga nagpositibo sa COVID and yung mga exposed sa kalye.
One barangay, however, was included despite having only 1 active case. This as the City Health Office targets to conduct more tests to prevent local transmission in densely populated barangays.
Wala naman ho kaming magagawa kasi na-declare na po yun eh. At least magkakaroon na ho kami ng preventions.
During the lockdown, residents will not be allowed to leave their homes except for health workers and essential government personnel. Non-essential establishments will be closed and quarantine passes will not be honored during that period. Authorities will press charges against quarantine violators. Residents are divided on the lockdown.
Ay opo, pabor ako dun para po kung sakasakali magkaroon ng kung may lumalaganap mo pong sa barangay namin, matigil po.
Yung iba kasi hindi walang kakayanang sa loob ng 2 araw, katulad dito, Tondo, maraming sidecar sa tricycle na naghahanap buhay na pagka hindi lumabas, walang kita.
Based on the latest update, the city government has already conducted swab tests to more than 14,000 residents. Manila recently opened its own COVID-19 testing laboratory at the Santa Ana Hospital. Meanwhile, the Quiapo Church, or the Minor Basilica of the Black Nazarene, reopened its doors. The church was placed under a 14-day lockdown after a visiting priest tested positive for COVID-19. Despite the lockdown, daily masses were streamed online. But today, 10 devotees at a time were allowed back into the church. Others opted to stay outside the Plaza Miranda. Church management decided to reopen their doors after 80 staff tested negative in rapid tests. Church premises were also disinfected prior to today's reopening. For News 5, Camille Samonte, we are One News.
The Alagang Kapatid Foundation and Rescue 5 recently donated hygiene kits to an Aita community in Iba, Zambales. 400 families in the far-flung community received the kits. Alagang Kapatid and Rescue 5 also extended help to an Aita community in Barangay Amongan. The group expressed their thanks to the members of the foundation for donating essentials in these remote areas. Basketball and football teams may now return to practice after months of being sidelined due to the health crisis. Leagues are now hoping they can restart actual games soon. Ryan Ang with this story.
Basketball and football teams may now once again train at least those under general community quarantine. The Interagency Task Force Against COVID-19 has green-lighted the Philippine Basketball Association and the Philippine Football Federation's appeal to hold practices amid the pandemic. But certain protocols are in place. Only the following are allowed on the court: 4 players, a medical officer, and a trainer.
Sinabi mo nag-practice ka na, dahan-dahan na siguro pwede na tayo maglaro. Siguro within 5 to 7 days, magsisimula na tayo mag-practice.
Prior to the IATF approval, Marshall said PBA players are already practicing on their own.
Social distancing, bawal ang scrimmages, bawal mag-game, so takbuhan lang sila. Protocols, meron tayong foot mat, meron tayong temperature, may alcohol, After ng practice, tanggal ang uniforme, ginamitan, lagay sa plastic.
According to the commissioner, practices are essential ahead of the expected resumption of the 45th season by September-October. Should that happen, stricter protocols will be implemented.
Mas maigpit yun. Mas maigpit ang gagawin natin doon. Testing, venue, sanitation.
But the PBA is reminding fans, playing outdoors is still not encouraged.
Huwag kayong basta-basta magbabasketball. Social distancing, gusto nyo mag-shooting, kayo lang. Ingatan nyo kasi pati yung mga bola namin, yung gagamitin namin ng equipments, talagang lilinisin pa rin namin.
Football teams, meanwhile, may hold training sessions with no more than 10 people. The Philippine Football Federation said their practices will be held in Carmona, Cavite.
After 1 month of practice, then probably we can resume already the PFL with the protocols in place.
Araneta noted that only those who have tested negative for COVID-19 will be allowed to participate. For News 5, Ryan Ang, We Are One News.
K-pop groups are breaking records across the globe, starting off with Blackpink's comeback. The South Korean all-girl group made history after smashing 3 world records. The new single, How You Like That, broke 3 records previously held by boy band BTS. Here's a sneak peek into the record-breaking music video. Meanwhile, BTS is back on several Billboard charts for their new song, Stay Gold. It's not new for the septet to debut on the top of the charts, but all their biggest hits so far were sung in Korean and later re-recorded in other languages. Stay Gold bypassed this process and was released originally in Japanese. Let's listen in. With tourist destinations forced to shut down because of the pandemic, Bank of Japan is opening a free virtual tour of its headquarters. With just a few clicks, netizens can check out the bank's massive courtyard and stroll inside the Western classical-style building with a 360-degree panoramic view. Visitors can also browse a 3D virtual reality interactive video and hunt for treasures. The virtual guide available on the bank's website was created after the Bank of Japan was forced to cancel its popular tour in March. And that wraps up today's big story. Catch us again on Monday, 8 p.m., Signal Channels 8 and 250. Please like our Facebook page, One News. For more in-depth analysis, visit our webpage, onenews.ph. You can also catch One News on the Signal Play app. Register for a free account now at signalplay.com and stream One News live anytime, anywhere. I'm Robbie Alampay and We Are One News. Have a happy weekend.